What's up, guys? I'm gonna be doing another Star Wars video, and this time I'm gonna be talking about Star Wars: The Force Awakens and just kind of my thoughts slash just kind of a review of the movie and what not. But yeah, so I went and saw the movie last night. I am going to go see the movie again in like an hour or so. So I'm gonna try and make this video, kind of short, but I really loved the movie, and from what I've seen on Twitter and all over Reddit and everything, so many people love the movie. Like, it has been getting awesome feedback, and I love that because Star Wars is back. Like, with Phantom Menace, it wasn't that great of a movie. Attack of the Clones, yeah, it was a step up from it. But for the prequels, Revenge of the Sith was definitely like the best one, just because it actually had action in it, and that's something that has kind of always confused me about the prequels. Is like, they're like, okay, what does everybody love about the original trilogy? Oh, I know, sitting in circles and talking. Exactly. So we're gonna make 3 movies about that, and I wasn't born, obviously, when A New Hope or Empire or Return of the Jedi came out, but I was able to see Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith in theaters. And with those movies, I liked them because they were the pretty much only Star Wars movies that I grew up with. Like, I had seen 4, 5, and 6 before then, the original trilogy, but I would always watch the prequels and whatnot. Whenever I'd watch, I never really liked Phantom Menace in the first place. Like, if I watched it, it was for the pod race or for the final end scene with Darth Maul, versus Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Episode 2, it was kind of the same deal. Like the original, or like the initial bounty hunter chase in Coruscant, and then kind of later on in the movie, when Obi-Wan visits Kamino, and then later when there's just the Battle of Geonosis. And those were my kind of highlights in the movie. I never really got into all this love crap with Anakin and Padme, just because that's not really what's I guess it's kind of what Star Wars is about, because you have Han and Leia, but they didn't have absolutely awful dialogue in the original trilogy. Like, just some of the dialogue was just absolutely terrible, so I would always skip over that. And 3, I loved that movie because just it opened up the movie with action, and I was like, thank you for that. And it was just, I thought it was a good movie because it had battles and stuff. But Force Awakens, wow, I kind of got off on a tangent there. I really like it. It really feels a whole lot like A New Hope to me, and it really feels like the original trilogy. So I mentioned to one of my friends. So I told him, The Force Awakens kind of feels like a 2015 kind of reimagining of A New Hope. So say with I can't recall what its name is, but basically the planet Death Star gun thing, that's essentially the Death Star. And then you have Snoke, which is essentially the Emperor, and then Kylo Ren, which is essentially Darth Vader. And then you have the Resistance or the Rebellion, and there's a weak point on this space station, and they end up destroying it, and then ta-da, save the day. And so it really kind of felt like a 2015 reimagining, but also really felt like Star Wars. So right off the bat, with the opening scene and just the opening kind of action on Jakku, that was amazing. I really liked that, and I love it. I loved it when you see the Imperial transport ships or whatever, or I guess the First Order, not Imperial. They come down and they land, and then you have Kylo Ren's ship comes down slowly, and it really reminded me of the Emperor's shuttle, but except it doesn't have the middle thing. It just has the 2 wings and then the main compartment, cockpit thing. And it really reminded me of that. But in every scene where it came in, it would come down super gracefully, as there's other ships that already flown in and stuff too. It was really cool. And then when Kylo Ren gets out and whatever, and it kind of the cynical person in me was kind of like, oh, we're sitting through another movie where they give these plans to the droid, and the droid goes off and finds some hero, and that person becomes like the main character of the story. And I was like, yeah, this is definitely A New Hope. But hey, it's Star Warsy. I didn't really think I was gonna like BB-8 in it, but BB-8 was he's a good character. I like that. There's just a lot of comedic scenes in the movie. One of my friends I saw the movie with, he really didn't like all the comedic scenes just because he thought that it's Star Wars. It should be about action. It shouldn't be a comedy, but none of it really seemed forced. I think the closest they became to some of the dialogue becoming forced in it, forced Star Wars joke, was when Poe meets Kylo Ren, and he's just kind of talking to, or they both just stand there and kind of look at each other, and he's like, so do you talk first, I talk first? That was probably the closest piece of like kind of comedy and dialogue that was kind of like stepping over the edge a little bit. But it was a good movie. There was quite a bit of comedy in it, and there definitely wasn't some like really bad dialogue. There was some really good dialogue in it too, and just kind of like the Poe had a really good line about when like the sun goes down, the light goes out. That's when like the dark side kicks in or something like that. And somebody kind of reflected that when spoiler alert, with this whole video, is when Han dies. So he, it was kind of just all that happened in that scene. I mean, that scene was great, and I really thought that I was gonna, dislike the movie like the next 1 or 2 minutes afterwards of that scene. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this movie anymore, But after that, it took me about 2 minutes or so, and then I got over it. I think it was a really good movie. When Rey, forces over the lightsaber over Kylo Ren and just boom, right into her hand. That was great. From the trailers, the trailers and all the marketing for this movie was just absolutely perfect and just absolutely genius, because in the trailers and stuff, they alluded to Finn being the Jedi and just kind of force sensitive and whatnot. But it turns out that Rey is. It wasn't a huge surprise because we knew that somebody was going to be force sensitive. It was cool when she was held prisoner, and she tried using the Jedi mind trick, and it didn't work the first 2 times. I also read that was Daniel Craig, which I was like, okay, the stormtrooper who's like, yeah, and I'll drop my gun. But movie overall was really good. J.J. Abrams just absolutely nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. Like I said, it really feels like A New Hope to me. And in the end scene, with the ending of the movie, I feel like it was a good ending. So it really kind of opened it up for the next movie and for sequels and whatnot. But it wasn't one of those movies that is essentially a trailer for the next one. So it's not one of these garbage 2-part movies where the first half is just absolutely terrible, and then the very end scene is basically just a trailer for the next movie or whatnot. It didn't feel forced, they're oh well, here comes the best part, let's hurry and cut this and make this the first half of the movie so we can charge you some more, so you have to go and see the second movie and we can get more money off you from that way. Definitely didn't feel like that at all. It felt kind of short, but it was a 2.5, almost a 2.5 hour movie, which I like that, long movies like that. But in the very end, scene with Rey and Luke, I really wish they would have at least had Luke say something, or do something, or maybe even have a scene where, I don't know, just some more amount of screenplay or screen time, because someone on Reddit was saying that Luke had more screen time in Episode 3 than he did in all of Force Awakens, and it was pretty good. With the lightsaber, so when they go into the cantina, it was kind of like a Mos Eisley cantina. They go in there, and Rey goes into the basement, finds Luke's lightsaber. That was really cool. Except they didn't explain that at all. And I saw this so much about people complaining, like, oh, they all they brought back that lightsaber was just to please the fanboys, and just for, to get everybody, super excited and pumped about this movie. But they didn't explain that whatsoever, and I thought they were going to kind of do that because Luke lost that lightsaber in Cloud City when he had his hand cut off, and it fell down with him, and somehow they get the lightsaber back, and then when Rey kind of asked, like, where'd you get this? How'd you get this? She's like, that's a story for another day. And so I was like, it kind of felt like an easy kind of cop-out for them to not explain that whatsoever, just kind of like hush-hush away from it, which, whatever, I don't really care. With the scene where, Rey is fighting Kylo Ren, it was really good. So, she, like, Kylo Ren is almost defeated, and then the ground separates between the two of them. I kind of, in my mind, like, the cynical part of me was like, oh yeah, well, that's convenient, like, it's kind of like, oh, that was just part of the plot where, oh no, we have to have these two things separate the characters and whatnot, but, that's not, the Force, and that's not kind of like the Jedi way to just, strike someone down. And that's not a Star Wars way either. Like, that wouldn't feel like Star Wars if Rey would have just, boom, sliced, Kylo Ren and killed him right there. It just wouldn't have fit with Star Wars because, look at in Return of the Jedi, how did they kill the Emperor? Well, let gravity decide. It threw him off, so you can almost, you're like 99% sure that he's dead, but, you don't have to, see them like get sliced up by a lightsaber or whatnot. And it's just kind of what they do in Star Wars. Like, they don't. Well, I mean, I guess in the prequels they kind of did it, but in the original trilogy they didn't really have a like a death by a lightsaber for a villain or anything. Like Vader, Vader just died. He didn't, get sliced up by a lightsaber or like beheaded or something, whatnot. In the opening scene when Kylo Ren like force grabs the laser out of the air, that was amazing. And like I said, there was just quite a bit of comedy in the movie, and I like that, but it kind of felt a tad bit excessive, but maybe that was just because of the theater I was in and the people I was with, because people were laughing their heads off these jokes more than a normal person should. Like, a couple people might, get a laugh or two out of it, or, kind of chuckle a bit. But these people are, like, laughing their heads off like a knee slapper. They're like, ah, ha, 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 for, like, another 3 minutes after each joke. And I guess that can explain why I'm kind of so salty about the jokes in it. But it was a good movie. I'm definitely really looking forward to the 8th one now. Like, it really has me pumped for it. I only watched the first, I guess the only 3 trailers. I never watched any of the, like, teasers or the little snippets or anything because I didn't want to have, like, any prior knowledge other than what, like, the actual trailers give. And that is something that I loved with it, and the trailers in general, is they gave away absolutely no plot to the movie. It wasn't like, here you go, here's the big old money shot of the movie, like in I went back and watched the Empire Strikes Back trailer when that first came out, and they didn't have any mention of the AT-ATs on Hoth at all. Like, that wasn't even part of the trailer whatsoever, and that was a big part of the movie. And in any movie nowadays, if that were like, if Empire Strikes Back came out nowadays, that would be like the first thing you'd see in the trailers. Boom, boom, boom. These AT-ATs coming down and just destroying the whole entire Rebel base. And it's just, that's kind of the thing with trailers nowadays, is you have to put all your big money shots in the trailers, and all your big budget scenes into the trailers, and all this action and excitement and whatnot into the trailers. But Force Awakens did it perfectly, I think. Like, it struck a good balance between, showing action and showing kind of what's going on and whatnot, and also kind of trying to, really hide the plot and the story. And like I said, like, I'm glad that they did that, because there was so many good scenes in there that we hadn't seen from the trailers whatsoever. and I really like that. I mean, they did a perfect job with the marketing and the trailers and everything for this movie. Like, I was kind of disappointed, like, oh, only 3 trailers, but a lot of the footage from the trailers was kind of the same. Maybe they added a couple seconds or whatnot from like the previous trailer, and included a couple new scenes, but they didn't include a whole lot in the trailers, and I'm glad for that because the movie was so much better. And I think it's so much better with just kind of media in general. If you are somebody who goes in blind, like, I didn't like go in absolutely blind, like, oh, wonder what this movie is. Oh, Force Awakens. Is that a Star Trek thing? Like, no, like, I watched the trailers and whatnot, but I wasn't, one of these people who, screwed, like, completely, like, searched all the internet to find all these leaks and spoilers and analyze every single frame of the trailers and every single teaser and, little snippet and everything, and decipher everything, and, go through J.J. Abrams' tweets or whatnot. Like, that's not something I want to do, because if you do that, then sure, it's kind of fun. You get to learn more about the movie. But then when you watch the movie, you're like, oh, well, I already found out about that like 4 months ago. That's kind of a shame. And just in like video games and stuff nowadays, with all this like video game news and leaks and stuff, it's really hard to kind of just keep the lid on it and just not let it out or whatnot. Like, anyways, it was a really good movie. I really like it. I honestly really hope that they do some freaking awesome Force Awakens DLC for Battlefront. And yeah. So last thing I kind of want to point out is with the TIE fighters, when they go onto the planet where, I can't remember her name, the orange lady with the goggles, that like cantina place or whatever. And in the trailer, the X-Wing that like flies in and destroys a couple TIE fighters, it has this really, really cool TIE fighter sound. Or not TIE fighter, X-Wing sound, like when it's shooting. But then in the actual movie, it didn't have that sound, so I was kind of disappointed by that. But like stuff like that, I love in Star Wars. And I really wish, like, I hope they make like a Force Awakens DLC for Battlefront. And if you hop in an X-Wing, that's the sound. Like, stuff like that is awesome. Like the seismic charge, I think it is, in Attack of the Clones, when the Slave One, ejects out those, I think they're called seismic charges, but like it, and it's just like a blue thing that just explodes in space. Like, that sound was really cool. I really like that. In Battlefront, the thermal detonator, or thermal imploder sound, awesome. And then if you put down like a personal shield, or like I guess that's what it's called, but the squad shield, if you put that down, and then if like an orbital strike comes in above you, just the sound it makes when you're inside of it is so cool, and I really like that. And just like, and with the theme and everything, it really felt like a Star Wars movie. There wasn't any like super memorable music in it or anything. Like with Phantom Menace, good thing about that movie was the like theme that kicked in when Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon were about to fight, Darth Maul. This movie didn't have like any of that, but it didn't have any music that was just like absolutely terrible. It was just really good Star Wars music, like kind of generic but new. So it had this like kind of old, kind of classic Star Wars feel, but then also had this like kind of new Star Wars feel. And I think that they did a really good job with just kind of rebranding Star Wars and like bringing it and making just you kind of realize that it's not the Emperor or the Empire and the Rebellion anymore. It's the New Order and the Resistance. And I really like that. Like, the movie altogether was really good. J.J. Abrams did an amazing job, and he just did such a good job. And I can't wait for all the rest of the Star Wars movies. Back when Disney first acquired Star Wars and Lucasfilm, people were like, oh, well, this is it. They're going to be cranking out movies, cranking out, little toys and trinkets, and, just milking this franchise and just beating it like a dead horse. But honestly, they did such a good job. And it kind of brings up the question, was it because George Lucas had like almost nothing to do with this movie? I honestly don't think so. I don't think that's, why it was good or anything. I don't think that had anything to do with it. But, it was good. I really liked that they used like practical effects in it. It was really good, and it was just amazing. It's just all together, like, and with the choice for like the setting for Force Awakens is perfect because it's like 30 years after Return of the Jedi, and instead of having like some CG like of all the characters aging and whatnot, they had natural age that really looked, it looked good and it looked believable. So when you first saw Han, you're like, wow, and it just kind of made you feel like, wow, this has been a long time after Return of the Jedi. Like, this has been a while. And then when you first see Luke, and, he kind of just has that beard and just everything, and like Leia, Carrie Fisher isn't aging all that well, but still, like, you can tell that it's a film that comes out, and it's just a story that comes out later. Han Solo, like, I watched a couple of videos and people didn't like the way that he looked when he first came out on screen, like Boogie2988, I believe his name is. He said that when Han first came out on screen, he immediately thought, he like kind of just felt that it was just Harrison Ford in a Han Solo costume, but then that was gone after a little while, like a minute or so, and it kind of felt like that because it's like, oh, here's this old guy in Han Solo's clothes, but it wasn't like his exact clothes. It was kind of just updated, future clothes, but that was gone in like a couple minutes where I honestly felt, hey, this is Han Solo again, and it was just a really good movie. Honestly, I don't really care that Han died all that much. Like, it honestly doesn't have a too much of like big an effect on the movie, and it's not a spoiler that would like absolutely destroy the movie for you. Like, it's not as big of a spoiler as when you found out that Luke and Leia were brother and sister. That was huge, and pretty much everybody knew that somebody was going to die in this movie. They're like, well, it could be Chewie, it could be, Han. I really didn't think it was going to be Han. People were like, they can't kill off Han. I thought, if they're going to kill someone, probably it's going to be Leia. And then, they can't really kill off C-3PO or R2-D2. And I was like, are they going to kill off Luke? Because he's not in any of the trailers. He's not on the poster or anything. Well, I guess he kind of is in the trailers. But, like, he doesn't have a major role. So are they going to kill him off in this movie? But just the way that they did it was just perfect. And then just, like, the overall, just the way they portrayed every scene and the way they filmed every scene was just perfect, with like just the ambient light. And so in the scene with Kylo Ren and Han Solo, you have the light coming in from the door that's kind of like on half of their face, and then they also have like the red and of just kind of the base on the other half, so it's kind of like just this light and dark side, kind of thing. And then once the door closes, then they Kylo Ren goes like fully over to the dark side, and I immediately knew he was gonna die when he held out his lightsaber, and I honestly thought it was gonna be the crossbar that killed him. So like he held it so that the blade was facing parallel to him, so they're both standing right here, and the blade was facing this way. So I thought that Kylo Ren was going to like hug him and then activate the lightsaber, and the crossbars were going to come out and it was going to kill them both, or he was just going to hold it up to his dad and just bzz, and then kill him that way. And I thought, like, when I immediately saw that, I was like, that's it, that's what they're going to do, because there's this big controversy and everybody was making gifs of it and making fun of it on Reddit and Twitter and stuff, of the crossbars, and everyone's saying how it's useless and everything. And I was like, this is J.J. Abrams' way of getting back at everybody and just kind of like, hey, it's not useless, you know, like this is a big part. Crossbars didn't like do anything in the movie whatsoever, but I honestly thought that was gonna be it. But I knew he was gonna die there. I was like, oh, you know. And then when Leia, you know, she didn't go no, like with Star Wars, you know, it's kind of famous to do that, but you know, because she is force sensitive, so you know she felt that, and she felt that, you know, she has this connection to Han, and you know she just felt, you know, her husband just lost. And like when on episode 3, when all the Jedi are being killed, you know, you see Yoda, he like drops his cane and he like drops to the floor because he just kind of feels his heart sink, because you know he can feel that, you know, all of them, all the life just gone away, and like in A New Hope, when Obi-Wan kind of does the same, or I guess Ben Kenobi, Obi-Wan, does the same thing, you know, I felt, you know, as if millions of voices were cried out and were suddenly silenced, you know, because he can feel that. And I mean, it was just perfect. Like everything about the movie was perfect. And you know, I can't really say perfect because there are some complaints I had about it where I kind of wish, you know, they would have done something, you know, better than a planet that destroys, you know, other planets or whatnot. But how do you step up from the Death Star? Like this thing, you know, it's the Death Star that destroys one planet at a time. What if we have this planet, you know, gun, sun, sucker upper thing that destroys like 5 planets at a time, you know? Like, not really creative, but you can't really do anything more than the Death Star unless it like wipes out galaxies or something, or wipes out the universe or something. Like you can't get much bigger than that. Like with most movies nowadays, like they have to destroy like a big city or something. Like most like major superhero movies, they have to like completely obliterate like New York or Gotham or, you know, Metropolis or something. Like every movie they have to just absolutely they have to have some huge level of destruction in it. And you know, it's just kind of the way it is because everybody's just come to expect that, and so you just kind of got to build and build and build and build and build. And you know, with Star Wars, we've reached that limit where like how do you go, you know, forward with this? But I really loved the movie. It was a really great movie. Definitely go and see it. Go and see it multiple times. I would encourage you. Like it's a really good movie, and I think you're gonna get more out of it once you see it for the first time and you kind of understand what's going on completely. And then you go back and you see it again, and you're like, okay, you know, and you can just kind of, because the first time, you know, when I went, I, you know, was really trying to suck in the story, but then, you know, if you go and see it multiple times, you can kind of just, you know, look at the like the art of it and the art styles, and you can just kind of bring it all in and absorb everything that this movie has to offer. And I'm really excited for it. I'm gonna go and see it in as many formats as possible, you know, like D-Box, IMAX, 2D, 3D, everything. It's awesome. I want to try Dolby Atmos. That thing sounds great. I've been super excited about that. I've been telling all my friends about that because I really want to go see it in Dolby Atmos. But yeah, there you guys go. There is a really long kind of review of it, but overall, the movie is great. 10 out of 10. Really pumped for Star Wars 8. And yeah, thanks for watching. Tell me what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video.